Only days after Amazon acquired full creative control over the 007 James Bond franchise, we already have unconfirmed rumors of a Miss Moneypenny spin-off series starring Florence Pugh, adding validations to the suspicions and concerns that following the DC model, where there are a ton of Batman spin-off series not featuring Batman, Amazon may be making a ton of James Bond spin-off series not featuring James Bond. So, is all hope for James Bond lost now that Amazon has taken over? Perhaps not. Let's take a measured and reflected look at the Amazon deal and what it might mean for better and for worse. Let's dive in. Let's begin with the fundamentals. On February 20th, it was reported that Amazon had acquired full creative control over the James Bond franchise, by way of handing over $1 billion paycheck to partial rights holder Eon and longtime producer Barbara Broccoli, daughter of original Bond producer Albert. Eon will retain their ownership stake in the franchise, so Amazon will have to keep cutting checks to them. But it used to be that nothing could happen within the realm of James Bond without Broccoli signing off on it. So that's what that billion was for her to relinquish creative control. And to be clear, the reason there hasn't been any Bond movies since No Time to Die is because Broccoli hasn't signed off on one, and of all of the myriad of Bond-themed pitches Amazon have sent her and Eon's way, the stupid reality show 007 Road to a Million is the only one she has signed off on till now, which is a state of affairs Amazon were most displeased with. They got their stake in the franchise as part of the bargain when they acquired MGM, but where Bond is concerned, they haven't gotten their money's worth so far, which is why they handed over that billion extra, because that buys them the control to actually create a James Bond cinematic universe. Or more accurately, a James Bond Amazon Prime universe. More on that later, as Amazon operates under different rules than the rest of Hollywood. For now, let's address the big concern everyone has with Amazon. Because of creatives like Jennifer Salke, who in every way is Amazon's Kathleen Kennedy, Amazon has a well-earned reputation for being all about wokeness and DEI-infused programming. The poster child of this is The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, a series which all Tolkien fans have long since checked out of, and which would have had Tolkien himself spinning in his grave like a drill bit. And lest we forget, The Wheel of Time, a fantasy series about the balance between sexes, which Salke made misandric and female-centric. It's also worth noting that Salke greenlit that series after cancelling the then-in-development Conan the Barbarian live-action series, which she reportedly did because of all the toxic masculinity on display. As we exclusively revealed, the showrunners behind that then set up House of Dragon for HBO, which proceeded to kick the Rings of Power's ass. All of which is to say that fans are worried that following the MO Salke has established, James Bond will be inclusive and female-centric. And the fact that the very first thing we hear about is a Moneypenny spin-off series will not ease those concerns, even if the series as of yet is still just a rumor. This rumor was first published by British newspaper The Sun and has yet to be confirmed by anyone else, so a grain of salt may be in order for the time being. That aside, let us not pretend everything was great and that James Bond was under fantastic stewardship up until this point. Remember, there has been talk of a black James Bond going back many years. Idris Elba has been associated with the role. Daniel Craig's Bond was far more sensitive than any prior Bond, and lest we forget, in No Time to Die, Lashana Lynch actually was the new 007, and James Bond himself died, a creative decision some lauded at the time, but which, all in all, aged no better than Star Wars The Last Jedi. And all of that happened under the stewardship of Barbara Broccoli. Now, she may not be a full-on Kathleen Kennedy, like Kathleen Kennedy proper and Jennifer Salke, but she most certainly has enough Kathleen Kennedy-like tendencies that it's not like James Bond couldn't be subverted in the name of DEI at any moment, even if the franchise had continued under her control. For she is, after all, no stranger to questionable creative decisions that do not age well. A staunch defender of author Ian Fleming's original conception of the character and his world, she most certainly has never been. So it's not like Amazon joining the fray means that suddenly now James Bond is going woke. There's even one positive line of evidence to at the very least suggest that this might not end up as bad as many fear. Consider Jeff Bezos himself asked on X, "Who do you want to see play James Bond?" To which everyone and their mother, up to and including the critical drinker, answered in unison, Henry Cavill. Under Barbara Broccoli, there was a guesstimated 3% chance of that happening, but with that poll, that chance just shot up to 30%, and probably much higher than that as well. A lot will depend on who is appointed the brand manager here, but I would suggest that in the Trump 2.0 era, where DEI is being cracked down upon, and Bezos himself has been seen cozying up to Trump at the Mar-a-Lago, and Amazon knows perfectly well what a flop the Rings of Power has been, there is at the very least a chance that Bond won't be as mistreated as you all think. Then why the Moneypenny series, you wonder? Well, again, that only comes from The Sun, and it's still pending further confirmation as of the making of this video. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that such a series is indeed in development. Why did word of it get out so quickly? Well, my best guess would be that it didn't come about only yesterday when we first heard about it. Chances are, if there is such a series, Amazon has had it in development for a couple of years already. Meaning it would have been conceived under Salke in the Biden era, when girl bosses were all the rage. And now they've invested too much in it to just scrap it, since it's probably the one thing they can get into production fast. For everything else, there's going to be some lead time. But what exactly is this everything else? Well, probably many more James Bond free spin-off shows. Shows like, and I stress I'm speculating here, but both myself and the rest of the Midnight Sedge in the Morning crew also speculated on a Moneypenny series just a few hours before reports of this one hit. So that seems like it came to pass. And continuing that speculation, a Felix Leiter series, an M series, a Q origin story, Jaws the First Bite, Odd Job's First Job, stuff like that. And I would imagine they would all tie in with the rebooted theatrical James Bond series. Since this is Amazon though, which operates under different rules than the rest of Hollywood, these theatrical releases would for all intents and purposes only be commercial advertisements for the Amazon Prime release, which would follow very shortly after the theatrical release. As we saw in our breakdown of Amazon's Red 1, which you can find linked to in the description for more details. That was a movie which by all conventional metrics would have been a commercial flop. But Amazon didn't make that movie for its theatrical gross. No, they made it to earn money from product placement and even more money from people already on Amazon Prime opening a new window buying whatever the movie tempted them to buy on Amazon. Because Amazon is in the business of making movies for the purpose of driving more subscriptions as well as more general sales from the Amazon store. I expect that these new Bond movies will reflect that, with the coolest gadgets that you can buy, ditto clothes, apparel and everything else. Amazon won't just turn James Bond into streaming content. They'll commodify the franchise. That's what Bond is to them. Here's to hoping that the content that they will make to that end will be worthwhile for the fans nonetheless. So, what do you think will happen? Has Amazon learned from their past mistakes and see where culture is going, or will their James Bond really be the extended Moneypenny universe? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and before you go, please smash that like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet, so you don't miss out on future updates.